as a child?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that in Chanukah, it's the rainy season in Israel, but often there are some nice days where you can walk outside with a sweater on and jump between the puddles that the rains have made. My father's Chanukah, the menorah for Chanukah is called Chanukah, was made for oil, and we bought special olive oil to put inside the Chanukah. I think there was one with oil. I think that we may have had one with candles. I'm not sure. I really don't remember, or maybe two of them were with oil. There were two adults in the family, my father and my mother. Children are participating, but we didn't have Chanukiot for the children, for us. We were 5 children. So we lit the Chanukiah and we put it by the door. We had a door that you could see through. So we put it there because it's supposed to be visible. We didn't take it outside because it was windy, rainy sometime, but it was still visible for anyone who would walk outside. And we did the blessings. You may not know, but the song Mao Tzu has many words. It has many stanzas. So we sang all of them. And to this day, I know by heart the entire, all the Mao Tzu, all different parts of it. We also sang Hanerot Halalu, these candles. These candles, there's a special section that you sing about the candles, about the fact that you shouldn't be using the candles for reading, for example. My mother was not working. Women don't work once they light the Chanukiah, so there's no dishwashing, there's no cleaning, there's no laundry, nothing, just enjoying the candles. And we played dreidels. Our dreidels were a little different than the dreidels you have here. The letters here are Nes Gadol Haya Sham, Nun Gimel Hey Shin, and our dreidels had Nes Gadol Haya Po, which means a great miracle occurred here. And the last letter was Po and not Sham. So we grew up with those dreidels. Obviously, the first immigrants to Israel decided to change the dreidels that they grew up with and make the last letter Pei. So we played dreidels. And we had sufganiot and levivot, okay, the same oily food that you have here, pretty much, right? We had all of those. In more recent years, if you have been to Israel, you've noticed that their levivot, their donuts are enormous. They're big round donuts with a lot of powdered sugar on top and a lot of jam inside. We didn't grow up with those. Those were sort of came later. I think in the 1950s and 60s, they didn't have those kind of donuts, but we had that. And we had various activities. I don't remember if schools were closed, but I think schools may have been out, and we had a lot of activities. We did games. We had games, and I don't. You know what? I'm not really prepared to speak, so I don't remember what kind of games we played. We had youth group from pretty young age. There was always a youth group. There was always activities with our leaders on Chanukah, but really all year round because we were part of a youth group. But I'm sure that there were extra special events for Chanukah. We didn't decorate a lot. There was not a lot of decoration. In fact, what you call Christmas, what is called here Christmas decoration, people were bringing it from overseas, but they were used for the sukkah. And to this day, I use the Christmas decoration to decorate my sukkah. So those lights, the blinking lights, and the glitter and all of those things, We bought them not really for Hanukkah, but when we had them to decorate our sukkah. So that's another curiosity.
You're going to be a whole session for us at some point. That's really, that's interesting. And that's why I wanted to start with you, because I thought that we would learn something about each other, and that's what I wanted to do. So thank you, Nima. Debbie, would you like to tell us?
I think my Hanukkah was, as a child, was very typical Americanized Hanukkah. I remember my parents' menorah. It always seemed like an old menorah to me, and obviously my father still has it. I remember when my grandmother, the one and only time she went to Israel, and that was even amazing that she got to do that. She brought my sister and I both back menorahs, very different menorahs that we both still use to this day. So that's special. I remember Hanukkah as a kid being, you know, maybe we'd have 2 or 3 decorations. At that time they had the cone, you know, the little dreidels you make into cones. So my mother would try to make it a little festive, and, you know, but it's not supposed to be Christmas. So, and we got a present every night, and, you know, most of them were small gifts like socks. I used to hate sock night, and whatever. And at the last night or the second to last night, we'd always get a big gift, whatever that big thing is we wanted. Once it was a trip, so that we were going on a family trip at Christmas time, because I guess it was early. As an adult, I think that Hanukkah, you know, with having a lot of nieces and nephews, and good amount of intermarriage, I spend hours between October and December buying everybody gifts, making sure they're wrapped with Hanukkah paper, making sure I get some things that are a little Jewish, like this year all the girls got some Hamza rings, so it's not, that could go for everyone. I always make sure that there's Hanukkah crafts, whether the children are being, you know, I mean, brought up Jewish or not, there's always a Hanukkah craft in there. And just making sure that, you know, and we usually have the Hanukkah party, which obviously we didn't have this year. My children's generation got online together from all over the country. They said, you know, Mom, do you mind? And I said, no, that's great. And, you know, dropped a few gifts off to people, and, you know, but, you know, it's not, and I have a lot of decorations, which I haven't used, which are ridiculous. And that's it.
And we know you have.
And I do remember as a child in Hebrew school at Rodef Shalom, at that time, Friend Hall, which I don't know why they didn't leave it that way, was all tile, all black and white tile, as Paul Friend told us a story that, you know, he thought it was his hall, so he started selling but it was a big squares. So I remember sitting in Friend Hall playing dreidel and learning how to play dreidel, and that's it.
Okay, I can address Friend Hall and the tiles. We wanted to make it more formal in the 80s, which is why we took away the tiles, because I was part of that, so I remember. Marion, how about you?
Okay, 1 minute, let's see what, okay, truthfully, I don't remember too much from the childhood. I do remember, I suppose we got gifts of anything. They were not very significant, and little things, and we always lit the Chanukah. Once I had the children went to day school. I had decorations, so I made the house Hanukkah festive, and we would have like the Chanukah. We have Chanukiahs that have been passed down from Stanley's family, and that's nothing very, you know, low key. It's really low key as far as gifts. I have 8 grandchildren, so I sent them a card with a Hanukkah gelt, and that's what I've done for them. I did spend 1 year in Israel on Hanukkah. There is on YouTube, I was interviewed by someone, and on YouTube there is a little interview with me and other people referencing Hanukkah. So that is my Hanukkah experience and life here at Hanukkah.
Okay, thank you. Jackie.
Okay. All right. As a child, I think my Hanukkah was, like Debbie said, like every American Hanukkah. We got our gifts. They weren't fabulous, but it was fun getting them. And we were excited because it was 8 days, not just one. So that was all a lot of fun. And one night we would go to my grandmother's for that side of one side of the family. And then we got more gifts from aunts and uncles. And one of the nights of Hanukkah, we'd go to the other side of the family and we got more gifts, and it was fun. And then with my own children, I decided I wanted to try to make it a little more exciting. So what I did was I took 3 blankets, one for each child. I have 3 children. I laid them out in the dining room, wrapped their gifts, 8 per person, and I put them on the blanket. And every night they had to select a gift to open from their blanket. So the first night we had a little bigger gift, and the other gifts were kind of, books, craft things, uneventful kind of, but the excitement they had of trying to decide, they would sneak into the room to try to decide which gift they're going to open, which was really more fun than what was in the gift. But they enjoyed that. That was always a lot of fun. And as they grew older and they have their own families, ironically, they each do the same thing, but they do it on their dining room table. There's a section for each child with all the gifts, and they have to pick. So it was kind of a tradition that they carried on, which made us feel kind of good. And the other thing now that they have their families, what we've done in the past years, I have one daughter in Virginia who's too big of a trip, but my daughter in Westchester and my son in West Hartford, I would make a Hanukkah party on the weekend, whatever, there's always a weekend involved, that's Sunday. And they would come. One year we made potato latkes, but don't ask. When you have grandchildren involved making potato latkes, it was a mess. So that was the end of potato latkes. We just served them and I made them in advance. And last time we tried making donuts. So my daughter found the recipe and we did the donuts. The kids had a great time. They tasted pretty good, but I think they had more fun making them than they enjoyed eating them with presents. And that's kind of what our Hanukkahs have been like.
Nice. Lots of memories, lots of tradition. Okay. Let me see. Sai, we're talking about what we remember of Hanukkah as a child and as an adult.
Yeah, right. So, having been brought up in Borough Park, which was a ghetto of Jews, I didn't know too many Christians when I grew up at all. So there was no competition with Christmas growing up. And to be honest with you, Hanukkah was a minor holiday growing up. It was mostly for kids, but the adults didn't take it quite so seriously. I mean, they did go to shul, I guess, and daven a little bit more, but it was not considered a big deal growing up. I remember that. We did have latkes and the dreidel thing, but it was downplayed quite a bit growing up. I don't remember a really big deal about Hanukkah growing up in Borough Park. It was not considered a major holiday, and it didn't compete with Christmas at all. So we didn't have to do that with the gifts and things. I don't remember getting a lot of gifts. We did eat a lot of latkes. So it was a different time back then. Yeah.
I think it became more commercialized because the holiday came so close to Christmas that the retailers took advantage of it and made it into a bigger holiday than it used to be.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And so, Sheila, that's a good segue. What was it like for you?
I'm so old, I don't even remember what Hanukkah was. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know. Well, there were 7 children, so I don't remember really anything that we did too much, but I just got off the phone with my daughter, and I think I have a very cute story. She has a son and twin daughters. And when they were small, you know, at Hanukkah, they would exchange gifts. Well, one night of Hanukkah, I don't remember, she didn't say how old the girls were. They were very young. And remember, we used to give them money because they were able to buy gifts at school, you know, to bring home for the holidays. So little Gabby, she was so excited. She wanted her mother to open her gift last. She was crawling out of her skin. So Lori opens the gift and she couldn't believe it. And Gabby said to her, "Mommy, we just finished learning about addition in school." She had gotten Lori a necklace that she thought was a plus sign.
Oh, I hear you. I hear
And
you.
her son and her husband just fell on the floor. They were hysterical. And little Gabby was so excited because she had just learned about math and she got my daughter a cross for her.
That's a very good story. Very. Okay.
That's my contribution.
It was certainly worth sharing that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, Ernie, how
Okay.
about you?
All right. First of all, Sheila stole my line. My first line was going to be, "I'm so old that I can't remember the holiday." for Hanukkah." You beat me to the punch. Congratulations. We're talking 86 to 92 years ago.
You
I
got
came
it.
from a
You
very-
got it.
I came from a very, very strict household. In other words, we lived with my grandfather, and it was so strict that the rabbis that used to travel to pick up the boxes for money, they stayed at our house. That's how religious we were. For the Hanukkah, since I was the only child, I can't remember too much, but I do remember that at that time, the whole house smelled what my mother had baked different types of cookies. The other thing is, I'd like to spend them. I do remember this one story from Passover, though. Again, to repeat, we were extremely religious. So for Passover, what they used to do was get a real live chicken. My grandfather got a real live chicken. He would shake it over my head and say a special prayer that all the bad things in life should go from me to the chicken, and then they would, yes, yeah, then they would kill the chicken. So those are some of the stories. But again, then as time went by with my three daughters, they attended Rodef Sholem, and from then on there, we had the conventional Hanukkah lighting of the menorahs, and of course, all different stories of exchanging gifts with the kids as they grew up. Thank you.
Okay. Dottie, I'm going to ask you a question and try to
Okay.
be politically correct. Was Hanukkah culture shock for you?
Not really. I had some Jewish friends, and so I did experience it every once in a while. But at my own house, we were not doing that, you know. But once I converted and Richard and I got married, it was wonderful. As he got older, he got very interested in woodworking. And so for Laura, he made several different menorahs to light and he made one that she uses to this day, that she buys special oil for it.
Oh,
And
wow.
we had it one day when we were at her house, and she was lighting it, and it just brought back all these wonderful memories of Richard being around and saying, be careful now. We don't want to start the house on fire, you know, but he made so many different ones and she used every single one at her house. So we had some good times.
Wow, that's a great story. That's a great memory. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was good to tell it.
Good. So, like Debbie, in some cases, I remember the menorah that my mother lit. It was silver. That doesn't mean it was silver, but it was silver. And it had lions on it, on either end. Don't ask me why that came back to me as we were talking, but that's what my mother lit. I don't know what we would have gotten gift-wise because, you know, in the 50s, money was tight and it, you know, we just got whatever we got. But as we got older, Mike and I got married when we were young. We were 21 and had kids when we were 25. So we decided as we were going to have Hanukkah, there was no way we were giving the kids, we personally, 8 gifts. There were too many generous people floating around. I mean, we like somebody said, there was, Debbie, I think, there was always a weekend. So we had Hanukkah with my parents and my sisters. So that was one night. We didn't do anything. They had gifts. And we had friends who sent presents. And, you know, so we said, you know, when the kids got just old enough to really understand the act of giving, we're going to have Brothers' Night. And like you said, Jackie, about the anticipation and the waiting and the looking, these kids shopped for each other and they gave each other gifts. And I want to tell you that that was like the biggest thing. You could have given them a trip around the world, but it didn't matter. It was their shopping and their giving to each other. And so one year when they were in elementary school, we were interviewed by the Fairfield Citizen. And that was the story we told. The kids were there and they told the story about Brothers' Night being so special for them. I think they really learned that giving is far more important than receiving. And to this day, I mean, I don't know that they have brothers or sister night, but they're very excited to be able to give something to us, to me. And my granddaughter, the only girl, when I was last in Phoenix, I tried to teach her, she was knitting a little and she was trying to teach me to crochet. And I can't crochet. I don't know why, I just didn't get it. So last week I got a package in the mail. I had bought the yarn, what she was trying to teach me, and she made me a scarf. And she said, "This is for you, Grandma. Do you recognize the yarn?" And so I wear it now when I walk, and I took a picture and I showed her, and she was like, she could not have been happier that I was wearing something she gave me. So, you know, that's something that I really remember. Latkes, whenever, and then it continued, when the kids were in kindergarten, and they were every 2 years in kindergarten, there was a kindergarten teacher at North Strathfield. And I remember Andrea Kern, for those of you who know who she is, she and I went into kindergarten and we made latkes. And Carolyn Humphrey couldn't stand it when she didn't have a wine shell or a kern mother. And so we had to keep going back to make latkes. You can only imagine what this school smelled like when we were finished. We made enough latkes, not only for the kindergarten, but you know, that's how we were able to tell the story of the oil and the potatoes. And so we did that. And Mike was not a great person in the kitchen, but Hanukkah was, he liked to fry the latkes. Let me tell you that I think I can still smell the oil from when he was cooking. My sister Marge would say that when she and Dave came, they felt they had to leave their coats outside in the car because it just wasn't safe to come in. And one year the smoke alarm went off and this very nice fireman rang my bell. And he said, I see there's an electric frying pan on the front step. That must be the culprit. And I said, it is. I removed the evidence, figuring that would help. He said, we have to go through your house just to make sure that there's nothing else causing a problem. And so I now, when I make latkes, I open all the windows to begin with, because I really don't want the firemen to come and visit again. So, you know, there have been those kinds of stories, and it was.
I have a funny one actually.
Yeah, it was fun. There were good memories, is what they were. Debbie, you must spend so much time shopping.
I don't even tell my husband, but because I was just counting, I have 15 nieces and nephews. Some of them are married and like 6th grade. Don't even ask. But Carol, by the way, my sister-in-law, Melanie, she waits till a nice day in November, December. She takes an extension cord. She brings her electric frying pan outside and she cooks all the latkes outside and then freezes them. But the other story I was going to tell you is about adults. So Lanny was a teacher in Monroe for many years. So I want to say when he was in elementary school, which he was in for many years, and he had a wonderful principal that he liked. And there were very few kids in Monroe that were Jewish, but they wanted to do Hanukkah. So for about 15 years, every Hanukkah, there'd be one day he would dress up as a woman named Baba Brena. Now the kids were young. They did not know it was him. And he would go around to the classrooms and he would read this Hanukkah book, this Baba Brena Hanukkah book. And I don't even remember what it was about, but my kids would be embarrassed as he would wear a house coat and a babushka and whatever. So for many years, and the kids said, when he would say he's a relative of Mr. Bowles, and he'd talk in a different voice. And for years, these are elementary schools, they didn't know it was him. Well, he got tired of doing it. And after 10, 15 years, and the teachers were like, oh no, you still have to do it. You still have to do it. Well, his principal, who he had for many years, was retiring. And and in June, when he retired, they did a big assembly with all the children. In the middle of June, Lanny, as Baba Brena, comes running out with golf clubs on his shoulder and said, and shocked his principal, Baba Brena's retiring with Mr. Gustitis, and I'm going to Florida to golf with him. And it was and that was the end of his Baba Brena. So he did not have to worry about dressing up. And for years, the kids, the little ones, still asked, was that Mr. Bolt? No, it was Baba Brena. And they still didn't know. So
that's good.
Too funny.
Really good. Yeah, I mean, you have to have something that you can hold on to. That's a pleasant memory. That's a tradition. And thinking back on them today, on the traditions, that's why I said I wasn't letting Hanukkah go yet. We would do one more day. So I see Erica is on. I didn't see.
Sorry, I'm late.
Well, if you're late, you get a detention. That's the way this works.
I had an appointment before.
That's okay, Erica. We are loose. Thank you, Nima, for spotting Erica. So, Erica, we're talking about what Hanukkah was like for us as children and as adults.
I'm sorry I missed it. I'm sorry.
Well,
I would have loved to hear.
It's being recorded, so you can go back and listen.
Okay.
Somewhere when Nima tells us. Okay, so what was it like for you?
Well, it's very different. I don't know if Edith ever shared anything from her growing up in that part of the world, but we lived in a communist society, so you weren't allowed to celebrate any holidays. But we did, and as I mentioned a couple of months ago already, that we had no candles. So Hanukkah, my mother was just lucky to get Shabbos candles. Hanukkah candles we did not have. We had oil. And of course, she made the sufganiot, my mom, the donuts, and the latkes. So we looked forward to that. we did not get any presents. We only got money. And if the holiday was, and I was thinking about this week, if the holiday happened to be around same time as Christmas, we weren't jealous that they had Christmas tree, but most of the people could not afford elaborate Christmas celebration like in this country. So our neighbors, the Christians, they would walk around, they set up the display, you know, Jesus and Mary, and they would ring, they would knock on the door, there was no doorbell, and they would stop at everybody's home and they would wish happy holiday or whatever, and they would get some money. Now, sometimes for Purim, children would go and wish Guten Purim to the Jewish families, and they would get money as present. So for Hanukkah, we would get together. My mother had one sister who survived. That's the only family we had in Russia. And my aunt passed away, unfortunately, when I was 12 years old. But we would get together and just celebrate with food, like every Jewish holiday. You know, soup and matzo balls and latkes and donuts, jelly donuts my mom made, but not the same way. We didn't decorate. There was nothing decoration for Hanukkah. But I can tell you that even the Christians, they couldn't afford, and there were no like decoration for Christmas trees. Like here you have the beautiful decoration. The only thing I remember, my next door neighbor, they would plan ahead to buy candy wrapped. I don't know if you remember, any of you, but they were like in a tissue paper, maybe a little bit stronger, candies, and they would hang that all over the trees, and cookies. And it was very, whatever they could afford. I mean, most people, they didn't have a store to go shop, and what they decorated by themselves. So that was, but anyway, we were never jealous. Like now it's a competition with children. We gotta do the same thing, decorate outside, inside, whatever, because of the Christmas. We weren't jealous that our friends had Christmas tree. And as you know, in Russia, they celebrated New Year with Christmas tree. So they would have, it's called Yolochka. And even some Jews, Russians, for New Year, they would have a tree. And they celebrate that more than Hanukkah. But of course, we did not go to Hebrew school. We didn't learn the whole history of Hanukkah. I just knew there was a happy holiday. My parents said, you know, the Jews won. Simple explanation for the holiday, but getting together with family, that was the most important. That's my story.
Thank you. Mike Klein, I'm told that you're on also. Welcome.
Yep. Yeah, I was busy doing something else. I just got on.
Good for you, Mike.
I said, we're very flexible and we're happy to have you. So we're wrapping up Hanukkah after 8 days and one extra. And what we're looking to hear is, how did you celebrate Hanukkah as a child? And then as an adult, did you have certain traditions that you did with your kids? What was it like for you?
For me, growing up, I would, once I started Hebrew school, I would always light the Hanukkah candles. It was just my brother and I, my parents, growing up in the Bronx. And since I was the youngest one, I would do that. I have to find a picture, because when my daughter started going to Rhoda Sholom, you made menorahs. And when I owned my laundromat for about 30 years, I decided to make a candelabra, a menorah for them. And what I did is I took a whole bunch of Tide and cheer boxes, the little boxes, and the Tide with the colors of the yellow and the orange and the red, I made flames. And at the bottom, I put every other candle or every other box with candles. And at the bottom, I wrote, we changed the tide, with using the word of tyranny, and cheered for Hanukkah. And I think I won a prize or something at Road to Shalom. I still have I got to find the picture somewhere. I don't know if I still have that little wooden plate with the box or anything. Now that my kids are all over the country, I'm the only child adult at home, so I light the candles. And usually the first night or so, I will make some type of beef dish and latkes. And for Gina and I, this Hanukkah, the first night I did a triple or quadruple L. We had a lettuce salad, latkes, and London broil,
Yay.
and candle lights. So that was the L's.
Cool.
So that is it. I
Very
usually send my grandkids maybe $2 bills or something like that, or other Hanukkah gift and everything. So that's the way I celebrated it. And since COVID started, I stopped growing my hair. I look like a rabbi now. It's getting look gray. I think maybe either in April or when we get the vaccine, I might shave it off or anything. But
okay.
that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Nima, I have a question for you that potentially will be interesting for other people. There are those virtual tours that keep popping up on Facebook. And there were some for Israel. There was one for Vienna I saw. But every time I go to sign on, they want you to create an account, and it talks about protecting your identity, and everybody who comments that it's spam. So I'm kind of curious as to whether you've gotten on to any of the Israel ones.
No, I did not go on any virtual tour, but if you're being warned about spam, then take it seriously.
I don't do it for sure. I mean, they look great. That comes on, go to Vienna, go here, but I didn't like what it said in their number for Israel. So I thought maybe you had figured out a bypass. Okay, that was, yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. Okay, so we have some things coming up. Let me give you a general some things coming up. We're going to be hearing from Larry Shire's cousin, who's an author, in January. I can't tell you the topic because I don't know it. And if I did know it, I didn't write it down. In February, and we're still trying to do twice a month, but I can't guarantee it. So, you have to follow the calendar that will be coming out. We have a very, very full calendar. And we didn't want to jump on top of each other. So in February, we have 2 nights where Rabbi Eisenberg is going to talk about and undoubtedly sing about what's Jewish about the Beatles. And I gather that there will be some guests who are going to remain unknown at the moment. In January, also, the end of January, our second winter concert series. Just tuck these in your brain, just so you know what's happening. And the end of February, also, we have Family and Friends concert series. We've got somebody who I am reaching out to. I have to make the phone call, who Edith recommended, who's going to talk about Holocaust, hopefully close to Yom HaShoah. But again, no guarantee as to timing because we have this minor holiday, ironic, sarcastic, of Passover that kind of, takes care of a lot of our calendar. We're going to do another Memories in February, not Memories on Madison Avenue, but Memories in Bridgeport of places that were owned by Jewish people. And I can tell you safely that one of our guests will be our own Jackie Gerlich, who will have plenty to say about the history of her parents' plumbing supply, Lipnick Plumbing. So we've got all of that. New Year's Eve, very formally, get dressed for this, you know, all decked out. At 5 o'clock, our own Lanny Bowles is going to play some music, sing some songs, half hour, 45 minutes. Unfortunately, we can't supply the refreshments. So all of those things are happening. With that said, let's see. I want you to think about other topics for virtual coffee. I can't guarantee that we'll hit them all, but I like to always have something in my hip pocket in case I need. And you don't have to tell me now unless you have a burning desire to give me an idea. And this, every plaque has a story, has taken off. Like I said at the beginning, and like Debbie said about gaining members and gaining plaque purchases. So please, I know some of you on here are already working on your every plaque, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say and to keep your family alive. That's.
So I have one thing to add that we forgot,
Oh boy.
and that is Purim. The end of February is Purim, and we're going to ask everybody for Purim services. Will be at 7 o'clock. I think it's February 25th. I don't remember, and it's a Friday night, I believe. I don't remember. And whatever it is, Purim, the evening, we're going to ask everyone to wear costumes or at least wear a funny hat to come to services. And Ernie, this is right. I want you to start thinking about this. We are going to ask everybody, anybody who wants to tell a joke, they have to make a reservation. We're going to email the information. You have to make a reservation to tell a joke or two, and let us know if you want to do it Erev Purim or Purim morning. So we're going to ask everybody to be a little festive, and we're going to have a little fun with Purim.
So
Okay.
now you can see why the flyer we've been working on has been taking us so long, because the calendar is unbelievable, really unbelievable. And for those of you who come on, and this is not a guilt trip, it's just a statement. For those of you who come on Friday nights to services, that has to be led by our special cantor Nima, the most beautiful service that is ever put together. It is spiritual, it is beautiful, it's musical. Sometimes she does it herself, sometimes she has guests. If you haven't been, make it a point to join. You won't be disappointed. This Shabbat, Rabbi Nelson is going to be the guest sermon person, and we're looking forward to welcoming him. He loves to come to Rosh Hashanah. He's our family, we're his family, and I can't say any more than that. We are family. I think there's a song. We are family, and we're there for each other. We're there for you. We know you're there for us, because look, you're here. We've got 11 of us who are just chatting, being here. So I think that's where we are right now. Did I miss?
Nima, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Can you share about Rayhan email?
Yes.
And I need help with it, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Ada Pasternak is here from Los Angeles. She is a real celebrity. She's a very talented musician. She plays the violin, mostly the violin. She's also playing piano. She's the daughter of Rayhan. You may know Rayhan as a music director at Bethel, and just a music in our community in general. She's quite well known. So Ada is here, and today at 5 o'clock, she's doing a concert. I'll send the details to everyone who is interested. I think it's going to be on her Facebook account.
Yeah.
I'm going to double check, but I believe you have to connect to her through her fan Facebook account, from what Erica, is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, and I'm not friend with her, so I didn't know how I would sign up, right? I'm interested in joining. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay, so, yeah, you have to click on her fan page and it will, look
Request
for
it.
other, she, in her email, she tells you how to connect. So that's today,
Oh.
5 o'clock. She's going to sing songs for the season. Some of them are her own original songs and some familiar, and Rayhan, Igor, and Leon are going to play with her. So all 4 of them, very, very
So
talented.
will
family.
you'll send the email?
Yeah, I can send the email around. It's still morning, so we have until 5. So
Okay,
yeah, we can. If you think it's something of great interest, you can send it around.
okay.
Yeah,
That
it
would be
sounds
wonderful.
interesting. Yeah,
Thank
sounds
you.
nice.
That's the sharing. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about. So,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. So I'm good unless anybody else has anything you want to share.
I'm sorry.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay.
This was
thank you
very
very much.
enjoyable.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
It was a get together. We let our hair down, and that's it. Come as you're dressed, think what you want, and enjoy the coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll
And
see
something
you.
for
You're
Ernie.
ready. We'll see you at whatever.
Mike?
Got a
Mike,
lot of things.
Mike wants to say
I
something. Mike,
wanted to add something for Ernie, and this is appropriate. One of a joke for you. I grew up in New York City, in Manhattan, in the Bronx. And when I was little, my mother would take me to Macy's to see Santa Claus, even though we were Jewish. I'd wait in line for like an hour, and when I got on his lap, he would go, "Ho, ho, ho, what would you like for Christmas?" And I said, "Sorry, Santa, but I'm Jewish. I celebrate Hanukkah." He said, "Well, you give presents. What would you like for Hanukkah?" And I would say, "A Christmas tree."
That's good, Mike.
That's a Ernie line.
Oh, that's funny.
perfect wrap up.
Yes,
Okay.
that is. That's a great way. Now I'm going to have to change my background and take Hanukkah off
Okay.
for later today.